Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Another crazy day in the Call of Duty world. A major update comes through last night to Call of Duty Vanguard. A lot of pros believe though it's actually made the game worse, and more cheating accusations hitting the timeline. This time not aimbot or wall hacks, but rather other forms of violating competitive integrity. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'll greatly appreciate it. Really up to the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Firstly, of course, just looking at this window, you're trying to jump up here. Of course, with some of the agents in the game, at least, well, until yesterday, effectively, you could do these hops and stuff without grunting all over the shop. There were some agents that don't make any noise when you bounce about. Don't really know why Ninja as a perk doesn't just make all agents do this, but look, we'll talk about that here in a second, because an update comes through yesterday. Part of the update was this, actually, the trophy system. If you want to unlock it, this is pretty ridiculous. If you want to unlock it, you have to die, or you have to go 15 games without a single death to a grenade. So I don't even know how that's possible in this game, to be honest. It's kind of like you have to prove that you kind of like need the trophy system before you can actually have the trophy system. I don't really understand it, but I guess that's what they want to do. We don't believe it's going to be seen in competitive play. It might be, though. It depends if they actually get a chance to test it out, because it's obviously not far away to the Pro-Am, and the teams are still conducting their trials. There's quite a lot going on. This is the kind of trophy system that comes out. If you drop it down, pretty sure it's quite interesting. I don't think you can throw it like in previous iterations. Like when you bring it out, it just goes on the floor where you're standing, which maybe makes it slightly less strong than it could be, because last year, you guys remember in Cold War, there were some crazy spots where you could throw it on roofs and all this type of stuff where it built grenades and no one could really see it and shoot at it. So there were some issues like that last season. This year's trophy, you just chuck it on the floor in front of you. If there's another trophy down, like your trophy actually destroys their trophy, which is kind of interesting because you thought it might have been the other way around. So that is definitely something to consider at the very least. But plenty of other things were getting changed. Firstly, this actually, the ricochet anti-cheat. Of course, we're going to talk about the whole cheating stuff here in a second. But finally, they've actually added this to Vanguard. I don't know why it really took them 6 months. Of course, they added it to Warzone when this was initially around. So we believe this should be a significant step in the right direction in terms of kind of ousting some of these cheaters that we've seen wall hacks and stuff like this be used in ranked play and stuff at the top of the ladders, and that they go on to actually say here that, of course, if anyone is caught cheating, they'll remove them from the leaderboards, this type of stuff. This was also kind of funny, I thought was interesting here. I think they might have been doing this in a Warzone for quite some time, but effectively the idea is cloaking, where if they see you cheating, you're going to be unable to see opposing players. Characters, bullets, even sound from legitimate players will be undetectable. So you'll be like, you know, pretty much caught in the blind, and they can just take you out no problem at all. So thought that's kind of funny, to be honest. I guess they're kind of copying this over to regular stuff, and then, well, hopefully these cheaters get dealt with in due course. But of course, cheating doesn't necessarily just mean aim hacks or wall hacks and stuff like this. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes time, but finally good to see that there's actually, like, maybe PC COD is actually saved, right? Because the last several months, and like pretty much, well over a year at this point, since we went to PC, that's been the big discussion, right? Like the fact that there's no anti-cheats has really been frustrating a lot of top pros, amateurs, this type of stuff, especially like the top of the challenger scene. And even pros recently were saying, look, if I play ranked play, how do I know these lads I'm playing against aren't cheating, right? I don't. If this guy smokes me, I don't necessarily think he's the next aBeZy. I'm more likely to think that there's something dodgy going on, right? Because we've seen many players in a similar boat get banned and stuff, or at least expose themselves and then get kind of manually banned. Now that might be done by the actual anti-cheat. So thought this is a good step in the right direction, to be honest. Let's dive into some of the changes that went down with the patch update yesterday then. So firstly, some contest spots got changed. As Crane kind of points out right here, some contest spots actually been patched. One of them being on P1 Bacage, you kind of lay down by the building and contest that hard point. Apparently P1 Berlin as well, that's getting changed also. So a few things that are getting changed around here, like, well, patching some contest spots, thought that was kind of good. This, though, is not necessarily what we want to see. So there was 3 agents, Beatrice, Padmavati, and Constance, who were effectively, like, they were silent agents, right? It was, like, it seemed like a bit of a bug, to be honest, that when you mantle, when you fall, you don't make any noise. Now, these, of course, were the agents that all the pro players and amateurs used, because you don't want to make any noise if you don't have to, right? And this isn't covered by the Ninja perk for whatever reason. So, like, that's the thing. If you play right now, if you hop on and play Search and Destroy or whatever you want to do, these players are making so much noise all across the park. Like, you can't really get away with doing anything, because now you're just going to get hurt. So I do wonder, like, you know, players like Shotzzy like to abuse the movement. In Search and Destroy, you might be able to get away with, like, anything nowadays, because you're just going to get hurt. And players reckon that you can pretty much hear this all across the map. Like, this Craig came out with, I thought was kind of funny. Not going to play the audio of this one, but you guys can probably guess what it might be with all the moaning and stuff, like, you know, my Outrage after today's updates. And that's the thing. If you do this nowadays and you play ranked play, you are going to hear this all across the park. So, like, that's the thing. Not sure why this is even necessary, why are these sound cues needed, but, you know, a lot of pros are really frustrated about this, actually, because it takes away their ability to be silent when doing this type of stuff. As Tiny says, this moaning and groaning just got to get reversed. It's so bad, says Slasher. And then Octane goes on to say the following: this operator change needs to be reverted. I played ranked for 5 hours today and heard ambient moans across the map in Search and Destroy for all 5 hours. So definitely something the pros aren't happy with at all. As I say, I'm not sure why the Ninja perk doesn't cover this. Like, I kind of understand it if you know, maybe like you don't have Ninja on, and when you mantle stuff, you're going to make a bit of noise. Like, just the amount of moaning and groaning and stuff that goes on seems pretty outrageous, and the fact that Ninja doesn't counter it, you needed to use one of these special silent agents that have now been changed. Like, that's the thing, it's kind of 2 steps forwards and like, 15 steps back, right? I don't know, in terms of fixes and thought processes around competitive play. And Kenny's like, look, can't wait for scrims with the emojis. I'll be moaning every call out to fully immerse myself in the gameplay experience. So yeah, not something the pros seem to be happy with at all. And that's the thing, I'm not sure what patch update they plan to play on for the Prime Classic, but you'd imagine it'll be this one. Is this going to change the way Search and Destroy plays? Like, will Sledgehammer be able to revert these kind of operator change, noise changes, this type of stuff? Because certainly a big topic of discussion the last day or so that pros want this to go. And also this as well from Venom, talking about control. There's a new, like, sound addition that's been made. I think some people were kind of concerned the fact that when someone gets on a point, they're not fully like, it's not so clear when they're there. They've added a sound that when the opponent is capturing the points, you hear this like really awkward sound in your ear, and people are like, okay, what is this? It sounds really strange, not a big fan of it. And yeah, well, they want that gone as well. So 2 things that have been added into the game that for competitive play don't really seem to be particularly good. So who knows if they actually are going to turn this around, right? But well, hopefully that's the case at the very least. But let's dive into this. So as aBeZy points out, Stallion's coaches have been actively cheating in challenges, calling out for teams on rotating and taking routes via a live feed of Discord. Listen at like 19 seconds. I'll share the clip for you guys here in just a second. So effectively, like the Stallion's team, I guess that's kind of like Zoomers, not really his academy squad, but I think like they're not salaried, but he pays them to go to events and stuff like this. They did pretty well at the Minnesota Open. They were just 1 match win away from getting all the way through to the Prime Classic, which is very soon. But of course, I think they've been playing last night in Challengers Elite tournaments and stuff like this relatively recently. They qualified for like the Elite Season 2, stuff like this. So a pretty big name and notable team most certainly in the Challengers side. Now, there's no accusations that anyone's wall hacking or aimbotting here, but it's more of kind of like a subtle kind of cheating or like, breaking competitive integrity by your coaches effectively calling out for you. So I'll share the clip real quick, like 19 seconds around that point. Like, I'll try and maybe I'll play it a couple of times. I don't really know because I can't really hear much. You can just about make out when I guess they're kind of saying it's Vinny saying something to Pat, one of the players that's kind of rumored to be he's telling him, look, rotate to the next hard point. And of course, the coaches aren't allowed to speak. That's kind of been the thing in Call of Duty for many years at this point, and even other esports as well. The coaches aren't allowed to communicate to the players in game because, it kind of reduces the skill gap of, let's say, communication, right? The team should not only be able to call out and what they're doing and where they're going and like where the enemies are, but also say, okay, we need to rotate at this time, like at the enemies going here, X, Y, Z, and the coach shouldn't be able to do that for them because, well, that's been banned from COD for many years.
I have mid. I heard you. I'm over you.
Top right, outer, top right. Hollow. Good pickup.
I'm on shot now.
Hey, I'm nading the rock.
Yo, crossing mind weak.
Hey, I got him.
Yo, one's lobby.
Hey, I chow. I'm on the spot. I have a chow.
Nice. I gave up mid, guys. Okay, I heard you. Yo, mid is open.
They could be, I'm looking at it real quick. Can you look at the crosspat? I'm looking at it close. Yo, Bone, chasing you. Yo, chasing you, Brendan. Yo, chasing you, Brendan.
Nice.
I gave up mid, guys.
Okay, I heard you. Yo, mid is open. Nice.
I gave up mid, guys.
Okay, I heard you. Yo, mid is open.
So there was a very similar story that came out a couple of months ago now in the Valorant world. Now, this is a much more important game than I suppose you could argue this one was, the Stallions game, like the elite qualifiers they're playing in. But, well, T1 versus TSM, there was a matchup right here, and it turned out that a T1 coach and other players, coaches apparently been doing this as well, had basically written to the team in their own communication. Like, I think he'd written in game chat, but he accidentally put it in on, like, all game chat or something, and therefore the other team and kind of like all the spectators could see it as well. And he said, like, help sewers was the kind of meme about it at the time. But he basically told his team, like, look, you've got to turn around and watch this. And of course, the coach wasn't allowed to communicate. At the end of the day, that coach got suspended by T1. They got forfeited the series because it was against the rule book. Like, the coaches weren't allowed to speak to the players or communicate with them in any way. Therefore, that team got banned effectively. And well, they got disqualified and they didn't make it through the second time around at the time of asking. And the coach themselves got actually, like, pretty much ousted from the community as a result. Now, there was quite a lot of this going on, actually. And I've looked into the rule set. I've tried to find anything that might be like this in the rule set, because if it's not against the rule set for challenges, then, there isn't necessarily grounds to do anything about this. But, well, this is what the rule set describes. Cheating and game integrity. Participants must compete to the best of their skill and ability at all times. Any form of cheating by any participant will not be tolerated. Examples of cheating or behavior impacting game integrity are not exhaustive and including without limitation. So that's the thing, like, maybe there's some other things that they can talk about here, but I'm not sure it says explicitly in this rulebook that the coach isn't allowed to speak to the players. But like, it probably says that in the official CDL rule set. Not sure it says here in the challenger side. I tried to like search for some of these key terms. I couldn't really find anything. But it kind of has been known that you're not allowed to do this. And this is what the rulebook actually says here at the bottom. I thought was kind of interesting. Like, well, there are a few things going on, like stream sniping, ghosting, this type of stuff. If a game spectator illegally provides, or any such player individually obtains, information about an opponent's positions and or movement. So not quite related to what we saw here with the kind of coaches telling them about maybe calling out for them and telling them to rotate and stuff like this. That's kind of been a problem that theoretically teams could be doing, right? And that's the issue with this, that Parasite kind of makes clear as well. That like, look, even if they were doing this, as it seems like they are, and it's not just this clip, apparently there's, DMs and voice recordings and stuff like this. Like, it maybe has been pretty common knowledge that this is what, like, Stallions and Coach Video, I guess, have been doing, which definitely does give them some sort of competitive advantage over the other teams. But the problem is, like, if, let's say you just turn the streams off, like, there's really no one's going to ever stop you from doing this, right? And maybe that's why it's not, like, explicitly stated in the rulebook, just because it's really difficult to enforce. If you turn the streams off, like, who's going to stop, like, your coach, I guess, sitting in the lobby, of course, watching your game, talking to you in Discord or dropping some messages in or something? Like, it's not something that we want to be the case. And of course, this team did go to LAN and came top 6 at that event. So like, it's not like this team is terrible without this, and it's not like maybe it makes a huge difference for them, but it is something which is important, right? Because all the other teams are not doing this. It's kind of against the rules, at least to our knowledge. And maybe Vinny and the other coach Viox as well have been kind of abusing this for quite some time now, right? And obviously at LAN they wouldn't have been able to do that when they got the top 6 here at the Minnesota Open and almost qualified for the Pro Am Classic. But if they're doing this online, right, to qualify for these tournaments, win money as a result of things, then you've got to think that that's a serious issue, right? The problem is, of course, what do you do about this? Because other teams could, turn the streams off, and like, who's really going to be able to figure out if they're in a call or in a TeamSpeak or something, giving them information? We even talked about it with the league, right? Is it possible that Rambo could go like down the hall in the Hex quarters, put on a headset, and like, is there any way for the league to tell if Rambo happened to be in their ear giving them ideas or like watching the game and giving them, feeding them input? I don't really know. Like, it's obviously not something we think will be the case, or I would expect any pro teams to do. But it's like, the actual enforcement of this is the real big challenge. And now this has come to light, will other teams start doing something similar? Because if they suspect the Stallions are doing this, then, what's to stop other coaches getting in a TeamSpeak and saying, okay, he's going here, like, I'll tell you to rotate at this amount of time, and like, so you guys can kind of take your mind off the macro, I'll cover that, and just focus on the game itself. It definitely is something of an advantage. So I think certainly worthy of discussion. I'm sure you guys will let your thoughts be known in the comment section below. Speaking of the Stallions real quick, just wanted to mention this kind of rostermania stuff to close out the video right here, because Neptune left the team of Brack, Prolute, and 2Real to join Stallions, Kaiser, Yuli, Cryptic. Now, Seaman says Neptune was actually on the Stallions for about, maybe 3 or 4 hours, I don't really know. Maybe he wanted to come in and make some changes to the team, or like in terms of the playstyle and stuff that we've been seeing the last few days. Maybe that didn't really work out too well. Johnny has also joined Sensor, Shawnee, and Ghosty, so that's a pretty cool team. But then just a few hours later, in typical Challengers fashion, Neptune has now rejoined Brack, Prolute, and 2Real, and has gone from Stallions, and Johnny's going to go to Stallions instead. So Sensor's team left without a player. I don't understand Challengers anymore. Very much intrigued to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hitting the like button tells your YouTube gods this is a good video. Others like you should see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.